where the difference is made, where titles are decided, where respect is earned. Excel here and you could go down in history. It's the final third. CVM TV's weekly JPL preview show every Sunday, starting 30 minutes before our live broadcast. Get insight, analysis, and hear from your favorite players weekly, just before we bring you our feature broadcast for the day. Move from defense to attack and join us in the final third. This and every Sunday until the end of the JPL season.
No more fear of missing out. CVM TV News is on YouTube. Get up-to-date news, sports, and business content at CVM TV News anytime, anywhere. Subscribe now to CVM TV News to see it happen.
It's Wednesday, December 4, 2024. This is CVM News at noon. I'm Ramon Gordon. The little playground has become a battlefield, and that playground is Manchester. That's the chilling update from local authorities in the once peaceful parish, now reeling from dramatic events Tuesday night. 3 people are dead, including an alleged gunman. The violence began around 7:35 p.m. in Porus when the suspect opened fire at a bar, killing 30-year-old bartender Sashagate Chambers, also known as Chin, and a male patron. A third victim who was standing outside the bar was also shot but managed to stagger close to the Porus police station before collapsing. He was rushed to the hospital, where we also caught up with the aunt of the deceased.
I was home when I got a call that Chin, that's my niece, got shot. What could have caused it? Because I don't know of her, of anyone involved in anything.
Police quickly responded, confronting the alleged gunman after he attempted to flee along a train line near the bar. What followed was a dramatic chase and shootout that spilled onto the Porus and Redberry main roads. The gunman was fatally shot during the exchange and a firearm was seized. We'll have more details at 7. The House of Representatives voted Tuesday for an extension of the zones of special operations ZOSOs in 7 specific communities. The extension is part of ongoing efforts by the Jamaican government to enhance security and community development in areas that have been historically plagued by crime and violence. However, the extension was not passed without scrutiny from the opposition. Adrian Williams reports.
7 communities are currently designated as zones of special operations ZOSO. The aim is to reduce crime, particularly murders, by targeting people who are more likely to engage in criminality. National Security Minister Dr. Horace Chang proposed in Gordon House Tuesday extending the ZOSO for an additional 180 days, which would continue until June 2025.
The zones of special operations is more than just a security initiative. They are a blueprint for rebuilding our communities and a testament to our commitment to a brighter and more prosperous future for all Jamaicans.
ZOSOs not only focus on law enforcement, but also incorporate social and infrastructure development to improve the living conditions within these communities. However, this proposed extension sparked a mini-debate regarding its effectiveness and long-term strategy. Opposition leader Mark Golding expressed concerns specifically about 2 communities, Denham Town and Mount Salem. Both areas have been under the ZOSO for 7 years.
I don't think when we first learned of the decision to utilize this particular mechanism, it was envisaged that communities would be permanently within a zone of special operations, which by its very name, suggests a status which is not the normal status for a community.
Dr. Chang indicated that while Mount Salem might see its final extension under the ZOSO, Denham Town is another story.
The build operation has not been going on smoothly, and as one some blocks which we are reviewing how we proceed with these activities, and certainly would like to extend them into other areas we close out in that area.
Golding also raised questions about a report from the Planning Institute of Jamaica, PIOJ, which identified approximately 100 volatile and vulnerable communities across the country. These areas account for over 70% of all murders committed in Jamaica, underscoring the urgent need for targeted interventions like ZOSO. The identification of these communities suggests a broader systemic issue with crime in Jamaica that requires comprehensive strategies beyond the temporary measures.
There are many communities that need that type of intervention, just as much as the 7 that are here. I mean, indeed, I can tell you that in my own constituency, we are very close to the Denham Town zone, and the social conditions that exist in Denham Town are not clearly distinguishable from those that exist in Trenchtown or Craigtown or Jonestown or Rosetown. Yet Denham Town has had 7 years of special attention.
The idea is to reach in these communities. The zones are in fact designed for those who have a high level of violence, and it would appear to be a good model to work with in those areas with high level of violence. But what the member is indicating, some of the activities can be introduced and should be introduced. I think we are looking at the budget.
Adrian Williams reporting for CVM News.
And following the recent fatal crash involving Lennon High School students, rural school principals are renewing calls for a dedicated bus system for their areas. Speaking on Lead Story last evening, Yalis High School Principal Mark Malava urged an extension and overhaul of the rural area bus program.
Rural schools, high schools in particular, have a bus system in place. This is a system that through the Ministry of Safety and Security branch have initiated this. So those schools, many high schools, for example, or several high schools will charter bus services or contract bus services to take students to and from school. So that is in place in several high schools in particular.
Noted.
Where I think it needs to go is that it certainly needs to be expanded in a very significant way, because as it is now, it caters to, or it's supposed to be catering to part students. But
Chairman of the National Road Safety Council, Dr. Lucian Jones, has backed calls for a school bus system, arguing that it would reduce the risk students face when traveling in illegal taxis.
To the extent that we can organize to have people traveling on buses en masse rather than individual cars or taxis, it's much better for safety. You move people quicker, and you move people much more safely if you can organize buses rather than taxis. So I'm in support of the bus system.
Residents of Cheswick in Dalby St. Thomas are voicing frustration over long-standing issues with poor roads and flooding. Taking matters into their own hands, they say they've lost confidence in their representatives.
Them weak, man. Both sides weak. And right now, it's not about politics, it's about the people, man. The youth them go to school. But them foot go broke off and all them hole. So poor vehicle come. You park this now. Look which part you park, right? And look where the hole there. So if you not stop to make the youth them pass, all the youth them go pass them hole. They broke off them foot and put them people in a problem, man. You see me? And all know we don't see nobody come around. We alone can't talk, but we have to talk now because we're up on the ground. Nothing me have in the bush have to come out. Pumpkin and melon. Sweet pepper and corn and yam for come out of the bush right now. You see me I say, I'm an old bike alone, can't carry it. And a vehicle man tell me say 15 and 20,000 for go around. That's a waste of time and the road is there.
And just ahead of the break, we'd like to inform our viewers who connect with us via social media that our official CVM Television Instagram account has been compromised. Any unusual posts or messages from this account were not made by CVM TV. We're actively working to resolve the issue. In the meantime, stay connected with us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube for updates. More is next.
Store. We bring comfort to every step with flooring that blends softness and style. From carpets and rugs to durable vinyl flooring and expert installation services, we have everything you need to transform your space. And when it's time for a refresh, our carpet and upholstery cleaning service brings your flooring back to life. Visit us at 18 Dunbarton Avenue, Kingston. The Carpet Store, because you deserve the best.
I'm Tashika Lu, and we all have a story. I can vividly remember when I was about to sit my CSEC exams, my line took an abrupt turn. While I was walking home, I was struck by a motor vehicle. As a result, I suffered major memory loss, which unfortunately, I failed my exams. It was impossible to retain information. This one school piqued my interest the most, and it was Distinction College, lowest school fee and flexible payment plan. They offer over 35 vocational and professional courses. Eventually, I became a part of the family, and during my time there, I resat my exams, and with the patience of my teachers, I was successful. In addition to that, I studied media and broadcasting, specializes in radio presentation. I co-hosted the school's radio show, Distinction 411. I voiced numerous ads for the school, interview artists, hosted graduation.
And now, I have my own radio show called On the Air with Tashika Lu.
So you see, my friends, if I can do it and I did, you can do it too. You can call them at 876-356-4167.
Welcome back. Jamaica is on the cusp of historic change as the constitutional reform bill moves closer to Parliament. But questions about bipartisan support and public engagement remain. Joining us to discuss this is Dr. Nadine Spence. She is the Civil Society representative on the Constitutional Reform Committee. Dr. Spence, thank you for being here.
Thank you for asking me to join you.
Now, Minister Malahoo Fort has stated that the bill is nearly ready to be tabled. From your perspective, are we truly prepared for this stage of the process?
When you say we, who do you mean?
Both
I think we are. I think remember that our constitution lays out the process for reform. And now is really the time when a bill is laid in Parliament that the people get to debate the bill. So working in the Constitutional Reform Committee, we have consulted. I mean, there will always be disagreement as to the extent of the consultation and to whether or not the consultations were enough. From my readings of what is happening across the world, there's never a moment when people say, okay, yes, you've consulted enough. That is always a controversial point. So if you were to ask me, could there be room for more consultations, I'd say yes, and I think the committee has more plans to continue to engage people, but to engage people on what is in the bill. And if you, again, our constitutional reform process as laid out in our constitution has organized and laid out a pattern or specific specifications that must be met as it relates to consultation and debate. And so that process will begin now.
Dr. Spencer, the opposition has raised concerns about the absence of an impeachment clause and the retention of the UK Privy Council. Are these concerns being actively addressed by the CRC, and how?
They have been addressed. We've discussed.
Dr. Spence? It appears we're having some technical challenges there. We're having a conversation about recent constitutional changes locally. But moving on to international news now, South Korean MPs have begun impeachment proceedings against their president after his move to impose martial law. Here's more from the BBC.
We start in South Korea, where President Yoon Suk-yeol is now facing growing calls to resign after his short-lived declaration of martial law. In the last few minutes, opposition parties say they have begun impeachment proceedings against President Yoon, which could be voted on in the next 48 hours. Meanwhile, the head of the country's biggest labour union has called a nationwide strike. There have been mass demonstrations outside the main parliament building in Seoul. The crisis has alarmed many around the world. Both the US and UK say they're relieved the president reversed his decision, but are deeply concerned about what is going to happen next in South Korea. Well, let's go live to the capital, Seoul, now, where my colleague Steve Lai is outside the South Korean Parliament. Steve, we're hearing that 6 opposition parties now have begun the impeachment process. Your detail on the latest, please.
Yeah, that's right. This is something that we've been waiting for and looking out for here in Seoul. I'm standing outside the National Assembly. You can hear a large rally, large crowd behind me as different speakers are sort of taking to the mic to rail against the president and the actions that we've seen with him bringing in martial law over the last 24 hours. You mentioned the impeachment process. Yes, that's our understanding too, that it has begun, that opposition party members have pushed forward the motion to begin. Now, there are 300 members of parliament in the National Assembly, and for a motion of impeachment to proceed, it needs the majority. So 151 members will need to support this motion.
Welcome back. Before we went on that break a while ago, we were talking with Dr. Nadine Spence. We're talking the latest developments from the Constitutional Reform Committee. We were discussing opposition concerns about the absence of an impeachment clause and the retention of the Privy Council, and we were asking the question, are those concerns being actively addressed? Dr. Spence, we're inviting you back in.
Thank you. I think the matter of the impeachment clause that you asked me before, I heard that question before. I said to you, yes, that matter has been looked at, has been revisited, is currently being revisited by the Constitutional Reform Committee. I think in appropriate time, the public will hear what is the final outcome of the deliberations. I think they're still continuing in terms of the inclusion or not of such a provision as it relates to the Caribbean Court. The Caribbean Court is a very contentious matter, and it has taken a partisan turn. And so I think that what we need are arbiters who can sit at the table and get our political leaders to talk about what their disagreements are and to reach to some kind of a position on the matter of the final court. We've seen lines have been drawn in the sand on this matter, and I, as the CRC has always said, as the Constitutional Reform Committee as itself cannot resolve this issue. The issue has to be resolved by the 2 political parties sitting down and coming to an agreement. It's not a matter that we can resolve. We have our own perspectives on the matter of the final court, but that matter needs to be further discussed and clarified by the 2 political parties. It is a matter for which both parties need to be at the table.
Certainly. Dr. Spence, you said we're going to need support from both sides of the aisle. Do you believe the bill will gain bipartisan support in its current form? And if not, what changes could be made to achieve the consensus we just spoke of?
The matters that are included in the reform at this stage were matters for which there was already consensus.
Got you.
So the other issues that you just discussed are matters for which there was no consensus. So the question of whether or not the bill will get bipartisan support, I don't think that should be in question. I think it's the other issues that haven't been resolved that might lead to problems for the bill. But then remember now, this is the time when the bill really gets to be debated and put before our representatives in Parliament, who have to debate the bill and then bring the contents of the bill to their electorate and talk to them about their perspectives on what is included in the bill. Because this is also, this bill will only be successful if the electorate votes on it. Because it is a referendum part.
Right, you're chair of the Public Engagement and Communications Subcommittee, right?
I am.
What has the feedback been like during the public consultations, and how has it influenced the drafting process?
Okay, so we're talking about 2 different things now. So firstly, the public engagement process has been a very contentious one. But when the contentious issues are examined, which should have been the impeachment clause and the matter of the final.
Again, it looks like we're having some technical issues. We're talking the CRC. That was Dr. Nadine Spence, Civil Society representatives on the Constitutional Reform Committee. You're watching CVM News at noon. Stay with us. We'll be back real soon.
Make yourself comfortable in authentic Hanes underwear. Nothing beats the never out of style ultra soft 100% premium cotton Hanes underwear. Hanes Comfort Fit V, crew neck and A-shirts, absorbent Hanes socks, Comfort Flex Hanes boxer briefs for men, and stylish itch-free Hanes underwear for women and kids. Make yourself comfortable this holiday season, inside, out, and underneath with Hanes underwear for that cool all-day comfort everyone deserves.
I only have Hanes for you.
AnyBet is Jamaica's premier company for in-person or online betting in Jamaica, with more than 40